The moment you stop talking to her, a conversation begins inside her mind, and strangely, the silence often speaks louder than all the words you ever said. Imagine this. For weeks, months, maybe even years, she became used to your presence. The notifications, the good morning texts, the random messages, the attention, the familiarity. Whether she admitted it or not, your voice slowly became a part of her daily rhythm. Then one day, nothing, no message, no call, no reaction to her story, no effort, just silence. Most men think silence is empty. But psychologically, silence is one of the most powerful forms of communication that exists. When words disappear, the human mind begins to fill the gaps. Questions emerge, assumptions are born, memories become louder, and that's where the real story begins. Because what she thinks when you stop talking to her depends on something deeper than attraction. It depends on human psychology, emotional attachment, uncertainty, ego, and the hidden fear of losing something that once felt available. Carl Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." Sometimes your absence becomes a mirror that forces her to confront emotions she never noticed while you were there. So tonight we're going beyond dating advice and surface-level explanations. We're entering the hidden psychology of silence. What happens inside her mind when your voice disappears, what questions keep her awake, and why does absence sometimes create emotions that presence never could? Let's begin. Part 1. The first thing she feels, confusion, before she misses you, before she wonders about you. She first becomes confused by you. Human beings are creatures of patterns. Every morning the sun rises, every night darkness arrives. And in relationships, whether romantic or casual, people become attached to predictable emotional routines. When you regularly talk to someone, you create a pattern. Your messages become expected. Your attention becomes familiar. Your presence becomes normal. Then suddenly, when that pattern breaks, the brain experiences something psychologists call a disruption of expectation. Think about it. Imagine driving home using the same road every day for years. One afternoon, you arrive and discover the road is closed. Instantly, your mind becomes alert, not because the road was precious, but because it was expected. The same thing often happens when you stop talking to her. Her first reaction usually isn't heartbreak, it's confusion. What happened? Did I do something wrong? Is he busy? Is he upset? Has he lost interest? The human brain hates unanswered questions. In fact, uncertainty often creates more emotional tension than a negative answer. A clear rejection ends a story. Silence leaves the story unfinished, and unfinished stories linger in the mind. This is why a song gets stuck in your head when it suddenly stops before the ending. This is why cliffhangers keep people watching entire television series. The mind seeks closure. When you disappear unexpectedly, her mind naturally begins searching for explanations. Not because she's obsessed, not because she's desperate, but because she's human. The interesting part is that during this stage, she often begins replaying past interactions. She reviews conversations, analyzes details, searches for clues. Things she never paid attention to before suddenly become important. And without realizing it, she starts thinking about you more than she did when you were constantly available. Because mystery demands attention, availability often does not. Yet this is only the beginning, because confusion eventually transforms into something much deeper, something far more emotional, and that's where the real psychological shift begins. Part 2. When confusion becomes curiosity. The most dangerous thing about silence is not that she notices it, it's that she starts trying to understand it. After the initial confusion fades, a subtle transformation begins inside her mind. Questions that once appeared for a moment now begin staying longer. The silence becomes a puzzle, and human beings are naturally drawn toward unfinished puzzles. Think about the last time someone told you half a story and then stopped before the ending. You couldn't help wondering what happened next. Your mind kept returning to it. Not because you chose to think about it, but because the mystery remained unresolved. The same psychological principle often appears in human relationships. When your attention was always available, there was little reason for her mind to analyze your value. Your presence was familiar, predictable, expected. But now, the absence creates contrast. And contrast reveals things people often overlook. Suddenly she notices what is missing. The message that used to appear, the conversation that filled spare moments, the familiar name that appeared on her screen. It's strange how people often recognize the value of something only after it becomes unavailable, not because they never cared, but because familiarity can quietly hide appreciation. The philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer observed that desire grows strongest when something becomes difficult to obtain. The human mind is naturally attracted toward what it cannot fully possess, and this is where curiosity enters. She may begin checking her phone more often, wondering if you've posted something, wondering whether you're busy, wondering whether you're talking to someone else, wondering whether your silence means something she failed to notice before. What's fascinating is that most of these questions are not really about you. They are about uncertainty. The brain seeks explanations the way a thirsty traveler seeks water. When no explanation exists, the imagination begins creating its own, and imagination is powerful. Sometimes it paints hopeful pictures, sometimes fearful ones, sometimes both at the same time. This is why silence can become louder than conversation. A conversation provides facts. Silence creates possibilities, and possibilities often occupy more mental space than reality itself. You see this everywhere in life. People fear unknown test results more than confirmed results. They fear waiting for an answer more than receiving one. Because uncertainty keeps the emotional system activated, Carl Jung believed that what remains unconscious often gains power over us. And during silence, hidden emotions begin surfacing, feelings she never examined before now rise to the surface. Not because you changed, but because your absence created the space for those feelings to be seen. Yet curiosity is only the bridge. Soon, another emotion begins emerging, an emotion far more personal, far more revealing, and far more difficult to ignore. Because eventually the question stops being, why did he stop talking, and becomes, what did his presence actually mean to me? And that realization changes everything. Part 3. The moment she starts feeling your emotional absence. A person is rarely missed while they are speaking. They are missed when life reminds us of the space they used to fill. There comes a point when curiosity is no longer enough. The questions begin to slow down. The endless search for explanations becomes quieter, and then something unexpected happens. She stops thinking about why you're gone, and starts feeling that you're gone. This is the stage where silence becomes emotional, not intellectual, not analytical. Emotional, because human beings do not become attached to words. They become attached to experiences, to feelings, to moments, to emotional states created by another person's presence. Imagine a favorite song you've heard 1,000 times. You don't miss the individual notes. You miss the feeling the song created. People work in much the same way. When someone consistently brings comfort, excitement, laughter, understanding, or emotional safety into our lives, their absence removes more than a person. It removes an experience. And that's when the emotional weight begins to appear. Maybe she sees something funny and instinctively wants to send it to you, then remembers she can't. Maybe she experiences a difficult day and realizes one of the people she used to talk to isn't there anymore. Maybe she hears a song, visits a familiar place, sees a movie, walks down a street, and suddenly a memory appears without warning. This is how emotional absence works. It arrives quietly, not like a storm, more like an echo, a reminder, a feeling, a small emptiness where something familiar used to be. The philosopher Blaise Pascal once suggested that much of human behavior is driven by our attempt to escape emptiness. We fill our days with noise, work, entertainment, conversations, distractions. But silence has a way of revealing what those distractions hide. And sometimes your absence forces her to notice emotions she never fully acknowledged while you were present. This doesn't necessarily mean she falls deeply in love. Many people misunderstand this part. Psychology is more complicated than romantic fantasies. What it means is that she begins evaluating your emotional significance. She starts asking herself questions she never needed to ask before. Did I appreciate him enough? Why do I keep thinking about him? Why does this feel different? Why do I notice his absence? And perhaps the most powerful question of all, did he mean more to me than I realized? This is where many people discover a strange truth about human nature. We often understand the value of something through contrast. Light is appreciated because darkness exists. Warmth is appreciated because cold exists. Presence is appreciated because absence exists. And when someone disappears, they sometimes become clearer in memory than they ever were in reality. The mind begins replaying moments, the smile, the conversations, the jokes, the kindness, the attention, the little things once taken for granted. Not because memory is objective, but because memory is emotional. It highlights what mattered. And slowly, without realizing it, she may begin seeing you differently than before. Yet there is one final stage, the deepest stage. The stage where silence no longer becomes about missing someone. It becomes about what that silence says about her own feelings. And that is where the greatest psychological revelation occurs. Part 4. The hidden truth. Silence reveals. Sometimes silence doesn't reveal who you are. Sometimes silence reveals who she is. This is the final and deepest stage. The stage most people never talk about, because by now, the silence is no longer about missed messages. It is no longer about confusion. It is no longer even about curiosity. Now the silence becomes a mirror, and mirrors are uncomfortable. When someone is constantly present in our lives, we rarely stop to examine what they truly mean to us. Their presence becomes part of the background of our daily existence. But when that presence disappears, the background suddenly becomes visible. And that's when the truth emerges. The truth about attachment, the truth about appreciation, the truth about feelings. The ancient philosopher Lao Tzu wrote, "To know others is intelligence. To know yourself is true wisdom." What makes silence powerful is that it often forces self-knowledge, without your messages distracting her, without conversations filling the space, without your attention reassuring her. She is left alone with her own emotions, and emotions have a strange way of revealing themselves when there is nowhere left to hide. Perhaps she realizes she enjoyed your attention more than she admitted. Perhaps she discovers she genuinely cared about your presence. Perhaps she recognizes that she became emotionally comfortable with you. Or perhaps she realizes something equally important, that her feelings were never as deep as she once believed. Silence reveals both truths. That is why silence is neutral. It does not create feelings, it exposes them. Think of the ocean. When the surface is calm, you can finally see what lies beneath. Human emotions work the same way. When constant communication stops, hidden emotions rise into view. Some are beautiful, some are painful, but all of them are honest. This is why chasing, forcing, begging, and over-explaining often fail. They create noise, and noise hides reality. Silence, on the other hand, allows reality to speak. Not immediately, but eventually. And here's the lesson. Most people misunderstand. The purpose of silence should never be manipulation. It should never be a strategy designed to make someone suffer. It should never be a game, because genuine silence is not about controlling another person's emotions. It is about respecting your own value. Marcus Aurelius reminded us that our peace comes not from controlling others, but from governing ourselves. The strongest silence is not the silence of punishment. It is the silence of self-respect. The silence that says, I do not need to chase what wishes to leave. I do not need to force what is meant to flow naturally. I do not need to abandon myself to keep someone else's attention. And ironically, that kind of silence often becomes the most powerful of all. Because it is authentic, because it comes from strength, not fear, from confidence, not desperation. So what does she think when you stop talking to her? At first, she feels confusion, then curiosity, then emotional awareness, and finally, self-reflection. But the deeper question isn't what she thinks. The deeper question is what your silence reveals about her, about you, about the connection that existed between you. Because every relationship eventually faces a moment when words disappear. And when that moment comes, what remains is the truth. Not the truth people speak, the truth people feel. Tonight, after this video ends, think about someone who once occupied a meaningful place in your life, not someone you lost, not someone you miss, just someone whose absence taught you something. Because sometimes people enter our lives to teach us through their presence, and sometimes they teach us through their absence. The wise learn from both. If this video made you reflect on someone, leave a comment below with one word that describes what silence taught you. And remember, the loudest messages are not always spoken. Sometimes the most powerful words are the ones that were never said at all.